To do is to show you how much food to feed a small rabbit. Now, I've got some food here. It's Burgess XL nuggets with mint. I chose it because of its contents. The thing to look for with all of this is its nutritional contents, and in particular the amount of fibre. I found a website which shows what you should feed a rabbit. Hello Percy, this is Percy, and you can see his size. He's about 1.7 kilograms, which converts to just over, I think it's 4 pounds. So this is Percy. He's not a very large rabbit. He's a lionhead cross, and he's about 1.7 kilograms. Now, if I was to try to weigh this packet of food to see how much is in here, it's roughly, I can see that the pack, I'm about halfway down. If I try to weigh it on my ordinary scales, which is for people to weigh in the bathroom, this is a pair of bathroom scales, and I put the food onto them, you see it doesn't respond. So the way to do this would be to weigh yourself with it and without it, and then take the average. So, holding the food, I'll weigh myself. I don't know if you can see that. 143. I'll do it twice just to make sure. One 142.4. Okay. So 1.2.4. So I was 1.2.4. I'll try it one more time just to make 100% certain. There's Percy. He's out at the moment. There he is, Percy. He's out of his cage. Hello, matey. What are you looking for? It's always a good idea to keep a rabbit interested, and I've given him this tube to go into. He also likes sitting on that black thing, that black bit of carpet. He's gone into the tube now, that's why you can't see him. Hello! Come to say hello. How lovely. Anyway, I'm going to continue to show you how I measure out the food and how much to feed a rabbit. The trouble is some people overfeed their rabbit and they're not actually doing a rabbit any favours. In fact, they're doing it harm. The most important part of a rabbit, believe it or not, is his teeth and his mouth. they've got to mesh exactly correctly with the bottom and the top teeth in order to be able to effectively grind the food. And this also wears the teeth down and prevents it from becoming too long, because unlike other animals, rabbits' teeth will continue to grow throughout their life. When I say unlike other animals, I'm not saying rodents, for example, their teeth continue to grow throughout their life as well. But unlike human teeth, which don't grow, these do. So you might remember that I said I was 142.4. I'll just try one more time, holding the food. Okay, so the important thing to do when you're measuring or weighing something out is, in the bag is to make sure that your scale is on a firm, hard surface, not on, for example, upstairs where it can shift around. So this is on a solid floor. So I'll check the way I'm holding the bag. Okay, I've done that once. I'm consistently getting the same 142.2. Do it twice just to be certain. Yeah, 142.2. This is with holding the bag. I'll just reset it. Do it again. $142.2. So I'm definitely 142.2. Now I'll do it without the bag. No bag. $140. So it must be 2.4, just to check. See if I'm 140 again. Yeah, 140. So 2.4 pounds. So that's how, so you've just seen how I do it, okay, so I've now got 2.4 pounds. If I was to try to weigh it directly, it doesn't show up. Okay, so now I've shown you that I've got 2.4 pounds of food in my bag. I can show you that's going to be about that's going to be about 1 kilogram. 1 kilogram, half a bag. And I'll show you what it looks like. If I get it roughly uniform, like this, I can work out how much food. Now that's about a month's food for a rabbit of Percy's size. If I halve it, I'll show you how I do it. Make sure it's uniform like this. Halve it halfway through. Okay. So that half of that pile is, that bit there is half of a month. That's about 2 weeks. And that bit there is about a week's. So here's about a quarter of the pack, as you saw how I divided it out. There's the pack, and there's about a quarter of it. And now what I do is I want to get it roughly uniform. So that represents roughly a week for a rabbit of Percy's size. So I want to get it kind of uniform, so I'm doing this holding the camera. I want to get it uniform, show you what a week's food looks like. Okay, so that's roughly what it looks like, a week. Now, I'm going to divide it again. That's why I've done it like that, because it's uniform, with my hand halfway. It's not an exact science. Get it about halfway. You can see that I've divided it in half. So that's half a week and half a week. So that's half a week. I put the other back into the bag, into the container. So that represents about 3.5 days of food. Get it uniform again. So 3.5 days of food. About halfway. So call it 2 days of food. So each one is about 1 day's of food. So we'll call that about a day's food. Yeah. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that represents about a day's food for a standard rabbit. Percy would probably a little less than that. Remember, when I weighed it, it was slightly over 1 kilogram, so it was actually a little bit more than 30 days worth of food. Okay, so that's probably about a day and a half's food. I'll put it in my hand. It represents about a handful. Hello, so here we are then. I've got it, shaking it all into a pile, into the middle. So that represents about a day's amount of food. And I'm just going to now get an idea of what that represents in terms of a handful. you can see it's just over a small handful, but bear in mind that this was fractionally more than a day's amount of food. It probably represents a day and a half's amount of food, and I didn't do it exactly. It's about that much for my rabbit. So that's a day's amount of food. That's probably more like a day and a half's amount of food. Yes, that's right, because when I divided it, yeah, I said 3.5. Then I went down to 2. I called that 2, but it was actually 3.5. Yeah, so that's actually a little more than it should be. That's probably a day and a half's amount of food. So the best way to actually do it is to know how much you can put into your hand. Okay, so here's the amount of food that I've got. It's a good handful of food, and that represents a day's food for a rabbit of Percy's size, which is about 1.7 kilograms. I'll show you how I weighed Percy. It's much the same way as exactly the same way as I did the bag of his food. Now, if you look at that amount of food, that represents a day, and you don't need to feed him more than once a day. That's in a 24-hour period. His food should basically consist of hay. These are simply a supplement. Please also note that the dust you don't want to keep, you want to throw that away. Okay, this is no good for a rabbit, he won't eat that. It's just dusty stuff at the bottom. Okay, even the actual food itself isn't particularly good for his teeth because it's really not hard enough. It crumbles up. Okay, it's not the same as hay, which will grind his teeth. Okay, just a word to the wise. When you put your food in your bag after you've taken it, just a word to the wise, after you've fed your rabbit and you want to seal your bag, on this one it's got a resealable top. It says resealable. Make sure that you squeeze out as much of the air as you can. It's the air which will make nuggets soft, and once they're soft they're no good. Okay, so and they don't become appetising, so we don't want them to go stale, so make sure you squeeze out the air when you seal it. I'm holding the camera at the time, so it's rather difficult, but you unseal. It's pasture meadow hay. You want to encourage him to eat it. Now, a bit like so you know that he's getting enough food. You should also observe him through the day anyway, so you can see do it. But rabbits love mint. Plant for a rabbit. Hello. Poor Percy has a missing bottom tooth, a molar, which causes him to you can see Percy, by the way, he's eating a bit of straw, which is a wonderful sign. That's what you need to do, encourage them to eat straw. A healthy rabbit is a thin rabbit. I'm not saying too thin, but it's better to be on the thin side than the fat side. They don't eat sugar. They don't want sugary diets. Occasional treat. For example, it's September now, and there were some blackberries at the beginning of the season of the month, towards the end of August, and I picked some blackberries and I gave him a few, and I do mean just a few. He won't be getting them again this year,